Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rotor Talk Live, Season 3, Episode 21. Very special guest, David from KlooGee. David, how are you this evening?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Bill.
Oh, it's been way too long to have you on. We should have had you on a whole lot sooner. Just as a couple of programming notes, just to make sure everybody know, Ron and Marcus, they're going to be on probably about once a month or so. They have their own channels and the weather's getting nice and they want to get out and do the thing that we're supposed to be doing now, flying. So, plus they have Zino Nation to devote to, but they're still very much connected, still very much a part of the channel. And we say greetings to them and hope they're enjoying watching the broadcast tonight. The other thing that I want to say is I want to thank everybody who watched my special 2 live streams yesterday. Normally I do Memorial Day live stream from my Phantom 4 Pro V2.0, but it was way too windy down here. We had 25, 30 mile an hour gusts, so didn't do that yesterday. So I did it from inside here, and I shared a little bit about my dad and his service in World War II. And I want to thank everybody for your very kind remarks on that. Also, I did an update on the Fimi X8 SE 2020, and we're going to talk a little bit about this with David coming up here. A couple housekeeping items before we get into things. One of the things I want to share with everybody now, I found this out from our good friend Lauren over who's been on the show before. And let me go ahead and share this screen here. Now, he said very important. If you do an upgrade, and this is regarding the Mavic Air 2, and the drone will not connect, you must upgrade the drone with DJI Assistant. This is a bug that needs to be fixed. So I wanted to make people aware of that, just to get that out there so you know that. And right now I've been a force of habit of just because I'm flying from home most of the time. I just do it from DJI Assistant anyway. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is I was on a podcast the other night. It hasn't been published yet, but it's from a gentleman named Preston Jensen, and he's out in, I believe, Fargo, North Dakota. And I'm very much looking forward to that. Had a great evening with him. Hopefully going to have him on in the not too distant future. And he and Russ are probably going to get together because apparently they don't live too far apart. As you know, Russ from 51 Drones lives in North Dakota as well. So I had a great talk with Preston. I'll definitely drop a link to his channel. You want to check him out. He actually owns a drone company. He does fly commercially up there in North Dakota, and he's doing quite well. So just wanted to pass these couple of things on here, and we're going to get into it. So David, I know you work from home, so I assume and I have to ask you this. I have to ask you this because I know you have 2 boys. How is it with them being at home and you're working from home? How's that worked out?
It's been a bit of a challenge, although now they're done with school. So now the biggest challenge is getting them alive. So when they were still doing school, we were making them get up at a reasonable time and do their homework and that kind of stuff and get them going for the day. But now that they don't have school, they think that they can just sleep all day. And one day I'd left. Most of the time I work from home, but one day I had to leave, and I left the house at like 6 a.m. and I got back at like 1 p.m. Well, one son was like just barely had been awake for just a little bit and was on the couch watching YouTube on the TV. My other son was upstairs in his bed and still at 1 p.m. So I grabbed a cup, filled it up with a little bit of cold water. Said, it's time to start your day, buddy.
Well, it's funny.
He was not very happy with me that day.
I completely understand. Well, our dog in the backyard, all of a sudden she'll just want to go and plop and lay down and not move for anybody. So I learned a trick. I did this like 2 years ago, and she still remembers. I got a cup of cold water and I got some on her tail. Just, let's get up and get going. And she comes in. All I have to do is stand outside and hold a cup. Okay.
Yeah.
And she comes running inside right now. So we don't have a problem with all of that. So, all right.
I think our dog is the one that's enjoying all this quarantine stuff the most. He's got so much attention.
Oh, same here. Ours. Yeah.
It's like he's loving it.
Yeah, my wife's out in the den. When she's working from home, and she has a dog pillow out there. There's a dog pillow in the family room, and then there's a dog pillow in our room, and it's like, who gets spoiled most in this house? Certainly not me. Okay, we know who's not in the house. I mean, that's.
I don't know how big your dog is, but I got a 70-pound dog that's decided he's a lap dog.
Yeah, ours is about 65 pounds. So yeah, she's the same. She's the same kind of. She's just a big old baby. As far as concerned. Yeah. So, Mavic Air 2. I know you had a great show about it. What are your thoughts and impressions of it so far?
You know what? My initial thought is that it's honestly the drone that I would recommend for 99% of people. If somebody asked me, what drone to get, if they have something more than $400 to spend, I would say the Mavic Air 2 is the drone that they should select. It's not, it doesn't have every feature that say the Mavic 2 has. It doesn't have every single bell and whistle, but I think the majority of people don't need every single bell and whistle. And if they're just going to be going out and flying and having fun and trying to get, a few nice looking pictures and some nice video, it's a fantastic drone. I think I said when the original Mavic Air came out that, if you just give it a little bit more battery life and you give it OcuSync, you'd have a home run. And that's pretty much what we get with the Mavic Air 2 is we get exactly that. It's a little bit bigger. I wish it still was the form factor, the size of the original Mavic Air, but you know what? I'll take the OcuSync 2 and the extra battery life over the little bit smaller. With my original Mavic Air, it seemed like I was always just just getting in the groove of what I was wanting to do, and then you get that low battery.
Yeah. Well, I first encountered that when I had the Spark. Okay, it's like, man, I'm getting some good shots, and then next thing you know, I'm hearing the beep, and I'm looking on the screen, and it's like low battery, and I'm like,
yep,
man, it's like it never fails, and I agree with you as far one of the things with that I've loved about this is the battery life on it. I mean, it's been absolutely stellar. Well, I've done several hyperlapses, and hyperlapses eat battery really fast. Okay, and I was pretty doggone impressed because I did a hyperlapse to the far end of my lake, which is almost 2,000 feet away, and and I did it coming back, and and it was still I had like 35% battery left. I mean, I was pretty impressed. I mean, of course, I started out with a full battery, but I had 35% left when I got back, which I thought was pretty great.
Yeah, it's a great little drone. I mean, it takes some great images. I put like a little teaser of a low light out I put it on my community page or something on YouTube and posted it to some of my socials. And it's got a little bit of noise in it, but I mean, for the size of sensor it has, it does a fantastic job. And I've been really impressed with it.
Yeah, I did see that on your you posted on the community page, and I did see that, and that was very impressive. I mean, and I think you made a real good point when we first started talking about it is that this drone is right for about 99% of the people out there, and I agree. And it's as I stated before it came out, it is really a natural progression from the Mini to the Mavic Air.
Yep.
I mean, it really it fits that in between it's just right. Okay, it's not as robust as the Mavic 2 series, and it's not as light as and I'll use the word light as the Mavic Mini. Okay, because to me, I love the Mavic Mini, but its Achilles heel is how light it is, and okay, the wind. Yeah, I mean, down I thought it was windy in Ohio. Okay, it's like down here. 9 times out of 10 when I can't fly, it's not because it's raining. It's because it's too windy. Okay. Yeah.
And that's the biggest limiting factor for the Mini. It's a great little drone. It doesn't do everything, of course, but its biggest Achilles heel is you just can't fly it in wind that with other drones you just don't even think about. Like with my Mavic Air or Mavic Air 2 now, or the Mavic 2 Pro, or the Autel Evo 2, or any of those. I just send it. I don't even really think about it. And with the Mini, I'm always like, okay, well, how fast is the wind blowing? What's the gusts? I'm really like soup, because I've had a couple of fairly scary situations with the Mavic Mini where I wasn't completely sure I wasn't going to be going for a long walk to try and go get it, because even in sport mode, it was not wanting to come back. So I was pretty lucky to get it back to me and not have to go for a long walk to chase it downwind. So,
well, yeah, that's always a good thing. And I had some. It was really interesting when I had I was filming a test, and it was my AK hyperlapse, and I'm like, okay, I get the notice from ADSB that there's a plane. All right, I click on the button to open up the map, and and I had the default option checked, and I didn't see anything on the map. So I hit the other one, didn't see anything on the map. Hit the other one, didn't see anything on the map. Okay, and then about 25 minutes later, okay, I'm filming another segment, and you can audibly hear in that segment there's a plane overhead, and I'm like, okay, all right, time out here, because I know, and I did some research. There are a very few exceptions to the rule. One of them is if an aircraft was built without an electrical system. A lot of pre-World War II Piper Cubs were built around World War II, and a lot of them were built without electrical systems. Okay, those are exempt from it, but most aircraft, I mean, as of January 1st, 2020, have to have it. But there's certain classes of airspace they can get away with not having it in.
That's right. They can fly in Class G airspace as long as they never go into any of the controlled airspace. If they stay in Class G, that's one of the things I was going to say about ADSB in terms of where I live. Geographically, I live kind of halfway between like the Cincinnati airports and the Dayton airports, and so I'm pretty far away for most of the stuff that I do from controlled airspace. And so the little airports around here, a lot of the little private airplanes and stuff, they don't have ADSB. So for me, where I live and where I fly most of the time, ADSB isn't terribly useful for me, I don't think. Now, I know a lot of people fly in different places than what I fly in, and it could be more useful, but for where I fly, and I've had situations exactly the same as what you're saying, where I get a little pop-up saying, hey, there's an airplane, and I have to like zoom out on the map to try and find where it is. So that's one of my complaints, I guess, about it, is it doesn't give me as much information as I was hoping it would give. Right, I was hoping it would tell me, hey, there's this plane that's flying at 900 feet, or that it would give some altitude and some distance, to give me some sort of context. I mean, it's good to know, hey, there's an airplane in the area, but it would be even better if it gave me some sort of context of where that is in relation to me, and whether it really is a problem. Because I mean, I know you're a 107 pilot and you follow the rules pretty closely. I'm pretty closely to that as well myself, and especially the altitude. I never go above the altitude issue, and so generally speaking, planes aren't going to be an issue for me, especially the ones that are definitely going to have ADSB. Commercial airlines and that kind of stuff that have to have it, those are never going to be a problem for where I'm flying. It's really the small commuter or the small personal aircraft or helicopter. And I've been watching Flight Radar 24 for a couple of years now. Keeping an eye on when I'm outside at one of my son's ball games or something like that. And there will be kind of a low flying airplane, and I'll pop open my phone and check out Flight Radar 24, and will not necessarily see most of the planes on there. I don't know how it is in your area though.
Well, one of the things I was going to tell you is where I live in Tampa, it's really kind of funny because I'm almost right on the Gulf Coast here, and about 5 miles is MacDill Air Force Base, and then MacDill Air Force Base is about 2 miles from Tampa International Airport. So, and what's real interesting is, there are sometimes, and this has happened before, there was one night I'm taking the dog outside, and next thing I know, I told my wife, I said, you need to come here. There were, I counted 3. I think there was probably a total of 4 A-10 Warthogs. I don't know if you know what that plane looks like. You're. I'm not hearing you, David. There you
hear
go.
me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Accidentally hit my mute button on the Yeti here. Sorry about that.
No, I don't know if you know what the A10 Warthog looks
Yeah,
like.
I love the A10. It's one of my favorite things.
Well, 4 of them go flying overhead. Well, I saw 3 of them, and I didn't have my phone. It was sitting on my table. I didn't do that, but they were and they were like you could see the USAF on it. I mean, it was that they were that. They probably weren't more than 200 feet up in the air, kind of a thing. So it does. We do occasionally get military aircraft, but they're not going to show up on ADS-B anyway. But I do get there are a lot of private aircraft in the vicinity and right around here. And then, I have a hospital by me that has a heliport, and that comes up every time that I go to fly. But I'm about 6 miles away from it, so it's not really an issue. But with all the private aircraft, for me, it's kind of invaluable because there are times I'm up there flying, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing that little drone buzz, not drone per se, but drone buzz of a plane. Okay. First I'm thinking, oh, my neighbor's out mowing the grass. No, it's not my neighbor. There's a plane up there. Okay. So it's, it's still, and as somebody pointed out on my video, and it's a good thing. It's like, and I use this analogy. I have a blind spot monitor on my truck. Okay. And it's like right now, I don't know what I would do without a blind spot monitor. Well, it's like if I go to drive my wife's SUV, she doesn't have a blind spot monitor. It reminds me all the time, make sure you look when you're passing, I don't have that blind spot monitor that you have in your truck. So, it's one of those things. It's like, be aware of the situation that you're in. I think that really kind of sums that up. One of the other things that's real exciting about the Mavic Air 2, and I know Lauren has mentioned this frequently, was that there's going to be an update. It's no secret. There's going to be an update that the Mavic Air 2 is going to work with a smart controller. David, I don't know about you, but that's almost like another Christmas present.
That was one of the first things I went and looked on their website after they released it, and it was right away in the FAQ. It said that a future firmware would update to make it compatible. And yeah, absolutely. I hate flying with my phone, to be honest with you. I hate having to always find a cable because it's not as bad with the DJI products, but some of the products like Autel, there's no way to actually store a cable on the controller itself. Or the Hubsan actually has this connected as well, so this isn't as bad. But the Skydio is the same way as the Autel. So I'm always trying to make sure that I actually have my cable, and then I got to put my phone in there, and then I'm always getting alerts popping up for various different. I just use my phone for so many different things. I don't like using it to fly with. And the smart controller, I absolutely love it. You just turn it on and it's connected. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to connect any cables. You don't need to, if you're using an iPad, you don't have to, have your bracket to be able to fit it in there. You just turn it on and you fly. I would love it if the screen was a little bit bigger on the smart controller, but I love that it's 1,000 nits. You can see it out in the bright sunshine. I also have, when I'm just kind of flying for myself or just for doing some testing and stuff like that, I don't always use this, but when I'm doing some of my professional work, I've got an HDMI, a 4K HDMI panel that's 2,200 nits that I have the lift door bracket. So I connect that to the smart controller, and I love having that extra 7-inch screen. I make it so that none of the telemetry or any of those details, it's just purely the camera view is showing in that HDMI monitor. And I can look down at the actual screen of the smart controller. So I can't wait for that to be added to the Mavic Air 2, because like I said, I hate flying with these things. I agree. They work, but it's
they work.
The smart controller is just so awesome.
It's like the first thing I do is I have to take. I have a thin case. I have a Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus, and I got to take it out of the case before I can put it in there. It'll fit, but trying to get the cable in there, it's problematic because it needs to be flush up against the bottom of the phone. And, with the case, a lot of times that doesn't happen. Okay. And the other thing is, those cables are just big enough. Okay. They're not, it's not like it's, you have there's no extra wiggle room. So what I did was I did some research, and PGY Tech makes a cable. I actually did some research. The one that was on their website was a little too expensive, so I got one off of Amazon. It says it's for the Osmo Action, but it's the same type of right angle. It's USB-C to USB-C, which is going to be perfect, and that's what I'm going to start using with that. But it's like, okay, when that smart controller update comes, it's going to be great. Now, I think you probably know what, and I put a video out. It's probably maybe a couple of weeks ago that they finally got the update for the Phantom 4 Pro V2.0. Smart
it took them so long after that beta. The beta worked great, but that was such a terrible experience with that beta because they just no feedback at all. It was just terrible. I can't believe it took them so long. I was 100% expecting that when they relaunched the Phantom 4 Pro V2 that they would like do a coordinated, like, here's your firmware update for the smart controller, and here we can do this too. I mean, wouldn't that have been fantastic for them to do that?
Oh, it would have been, marketing wise, it would have been a home run, and they could have done a bundle. They could have bundled the smart controller with the with Phantom 4 Pro, maybe save $150 or something like that. I mean, it would have flown through the roof, literally.
Yep. I agree. I
saw you
shocked that it took so long
out on that forum for the beta testing, because I was a beta tester too, and I was like, I'm like you. I'm just like, give me a brick wall. Let me start hitting my head against it, because none of this makes any sense. It's like, why don't you have this ready and available? And it's like it's a no-brainer, guys. And it's like, and then they responded to me after a while. And they said, at this point, we have no further plans for doing anything with it. And I'm like, okay, so why did you have us beta test it? And then it comes out.
Yeah, their communication is just awful when it comes to that stuff. They never communicate. It's always frustrating.
Yeah.
Speaking about the smart controller, though, the most recent firmware update, I get occasional times where the camera view just like dies in DJI Go 4. And I have to like force quit DJI Go 4 and then relaunch it, and then it's just fine. Have you seen any of that at all?
No, I haven't had that. And I did do the.
I've seen a few people mention it. I don't remember if it was on the DJI forum or in Facebook groups or somewhere, but I've seen a couple of people, at least a few people, mention that as well. It hasn't happened too often, but it has happened at least twice to me in all the flights I've done since I've done the most recent firmware update on the smart controller.
Yeah, I haven't had that happen to me, and I think that's gonna, that's something that needs to be addressed. And one of the things I know, I had talked about this with Marcus, and I don't know about you, but on the on the Fly app, okay, what really it's my pet peeve about it, okay, is the colors of the symbols and the lettering on there. They're white, okay.
Yeah,
trying to find.
That's honestly the best thing about using an iPad with the DJI Fly app, is because at least with this is the iPad Pro 11-inch, because it's more square. It's not the 16:9. It's taller. So there's actually black bars at the top. So the telemetry actually ends up in the black bars, whereas on my iPhone, all the telemetry and the battery percentage and whatever is right at the top, over the top of your camera view, and it's really hard to see it. And I know a million, everybody complains about it.
Oh, it's just, and being in IT, okay. I used to be a developer, but I mean, that's not a hard fix. That's not gonna, that's not gonna break the bank to fix something like that. And I think
all they need is just a slight gradient, like a gray, like 20%, 30% gray gradient that doesn't, like, it's transparent. It just gives a little bit of contrast between the white, and because most of the time it's the sky that's up there, and so you got either clouds or you got the blue sky, and the white over that light blue of the sky or whatever is just, it's hard to see.
Now, what do you think of the DJI Fly app? I know a lot of people are a big fan of it, and I think DJI probably has listened. What do you think?
I'm conflicted with it, right? So, I mean, part of part of the problem with it was they launched it with just the Mavic Mini, and it was meant to be super simple and not to have every feature. So there wasn't every feature in there. They've added a few more features in for the Mavic Air 2. I think it's pretty good. I think that where they kind of have hidden a few things is a little awkward in terms of like if you're going to if you want to do the white balance, it's not just under the normal like camera menu where you change like shutter speed and all that other stuff. You have to go dig into the other menus. And then you just have a slider for the degrees Kelvin. You don't have like a sunny, cloudy, daylight, whatever. You don't have different options to choose from. You have to know that a cloudy day is a certain Kelvin and a sunny day is, 5,500 Kelvin and whatever, if you want to change that. And I easily remember the daylight numbers around 5,500, but for some reason I can never remember what the cloudy day Kelvin number is. So I have to like think about it for a second before, and most of the, in DJI Fly, you just go select sunny or cloudy or whatever, and it's super, super simple. And I know it's better, to have that, but to actually have the Kelvin so that you can actually dial it in perfectly for what you want. But that seems to me like it's more a pro feature than it is for an easy feature. Like it seems like they're trying to make DJI Fly, right? It's for more beginners. Beginner doesn't really want to have to know that 5,500 Kelvin is daylight and whatever. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm kind of
little things like that.
Yeah, I'm like you as far as I appreciate after having flown drones for about 4 years now, 3-4 years. I really appreciate the Go 4 app and all the options that you have available for it. But it's like the old thing that keeps cropping up all the time that people say is a lot of things are buried in menus, and you have to memorize where things are via the menus. Okay. And after a while you get used to it. Okay. And I think both you and I know Marcus, Ron, everybody I know are used to the menus. Okay. And then comes the Fly app. Now the Fly app in and of itself, I think its big plus is its menu structure is more geared toward, I would say, a beginner or a second drone type of flyer. Yep.
Yeah, and that's how they introduced it, right? Is they started off with their two smallest and lowest end drones, being the Mavic Mini and the Mavic Air 2. I guess it'll be interesting to see how it expands to encompass, future drones that are probably at the higher end of their spectrum. Will they continue to go with the Fly app for all their future consumer/prosumer drones, like if there's a Mavic 3, will they continue to expand DJI Fly? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I think you've got a point. I think, you kind of, after you fly enough time or you do any activity for a certain amount of time, you kind of get muscle memory in terms of, here, I just do this. I just click, and I can get to what I want. And I think DJI Fly is still, for me, I use the Mavic 2 Pro as my most used drone, and that's what I use when I do my paying jobs and that kind of stuff. And so, going back to Mavic Air 2, I'm kind of I'm not there with the muscle memory on finding everything in the Fly app, but I think it's good enough. I do think there's a few things like you're saying in terms of making it more readable for the telemetry, and some of those things would really help.
Well, one of the other things here is the Mavic 3, and that's going to be, from what I've heard from Lauren, and from all indications are it's going to be before the probably in July, which is a real quick turnaround from just getting the Mavic Air 2.
Yeah, that would really surprise me.
Yeah, it would kind of surprise me too. But I mean, I got to say this, Lauren's track record is pretty good, and that's one of the reasons. I mean, he's in the chat right now.
Yeah, I see him in there.
He's one. He said until the end of July he really can't be on. So that was one of those things. He was kind of like Rick Smith, okay? Because Rick Smith says, when I can't talk to you, Bill, that means I'm under an NDA, kind of a thing. It's like okay. So I've been trying to, I've sent Rick several emails and stuff, and he hasn't replied back. But I'm assuming he's probably under an NDA right now, because that's when he won't reply back because of something like that. So,
Lauren says, don't bet on July now.
Don't bet on July. Well, it's like, yeah, and I would say probably with everything that's gone on, because I did read today on Drone DJ that the Mavic Air 2 shipments are being delayed from China right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. because of production, shipping, that kind of thing. So and there's a lot of shipping that's going on right now too because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Carrier.
Yeah, everybody's trying to catch up with the backlog and everything, and still trying to figure out all their personnel and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, so it's going to be, it's probably going to be a while, and my guess it's probably playing into that, and also, you realize, that a company such as DJI has suppliers that supply them with a lot of the raw materials, and there could be issues there as well too. So,
yeah.
But it's probably going to come out sometime this year, and it's just like, it's like, okay. You get your head wrapped around this, and then the Mavic 3 comes, but that's to be decided. We'll leave that at another go. Now,
yeah, I can't wait to see what they eventually bring out for the Mavic 3.
Me too. I think it's going to be interesting with the capabilities of that, and my guess, and this is just my guesstimation. It's going to have all the capabilities of the Phantom 4 Pro V2.0, but in a compact package. I mean, it's going to have probably that mechanical shutter that people have been talking for, the 1-inch sensor. I think it's going to be pretty robust in its feature set.
Yep.
I know you've had an experience with a non-DJI product, the Hubsan Zino 2.
Well, I've got all kinds of other drones. I got white drones, I got orange drones, I got blue drones, I got gray drones. So I got them all. But so you're specifically asking about this one right here. So this is the Hubsan Zino 2, and it's been a bit of a challenge. So it had a firmware update not too long ago. I don't remember exactly when it came out, but I was probably a couple weeks behind actually trying to get it installed, and it just would not install for some reason. And so actually just finally today, after I think a little over a week of trying to be in contact with Hubsan support, they finally got back to me overnight with an email with a file that they had me put on a FAT32 formatted SD card. It had to be that. It couldn't be some other format. And finally got the firmware update to install, but it was a little over a week where I could, even if I wanted to fly it, I couldn't fly it because it's stuck in this loop of, hey, you tried to update, but it failed, so you got to try and update it. So I couldn't even do anything with it. And then I just a couple hours ago, quite honestly, I put it up for its first flight, and it's not a it's not a precision instrument. I'll just say that, right? So it loves to move around. I put you put the one of the Autels up, you put a DJI up. If there's negligible wind, it just is rock steady and will just stay in one spot. That Hubsan, I'm afraid to take my eyes off of it if it's anywhere near anything because it wanders around quite a bit. And of course, it doesn't have any sort of an obstacle avoidance system in it. And, it's not just moving around this way. It's moving all directions around. So it's a bit of a challenge. And, when it's not precise on the stick movements, right? So it's sitting here and you just want to move it forward just a little bit. Well, it'll go forward a little bit, but then it seems like it comes back at you a little bit. And so trying to get it in a precise location, landing on my deck is a bit of a challenge with it. It probably has a little bit of a scuff. It had a little bit of a fight with one of the chairs on my deck as I was landing at one of the times. So it was so I don't think the Zino 2 is going to be staying with me for very much longer. I know that you put yours up for sale, or you sold yours.
Yeah, I did sell mine. I sold it without even taking it up in the air. And and it's hearing your experience, and I know like Ron and Marcus have had different experiences. Ron has had a pretty good experience. Marcus has said has had the same kind of experience as you. And and the other thing is, and this is a known issue, that lens flare issue. It's something that's physical. It's part of the hardware, whether it's the actual lens itself or inside the system. It's hardware that needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
And
the other problem that I have an issue with is the connection. It'll keep a connection for a pretty fair distance, but it seems like it's like 480p or something. Like the connection, like the screen you get just is not really clear. Like I'm used to, with the Autel and the Skydio and the DJI, it's a crystal clear, on your phone when you're sitting there watching through the camera. Most of those are 720 or 1080p for the feed that's coming back at you. The Zino 2, it is I don't know what it kind of looks like you're looking through a potato while you're looking, on your phone. It's not been a good experience. I'll just say that. So I don't know if I'll end up doing a final review before I sell it, or if I'll just sell it and just call it good.
Well, and on the heels of that, one of the other drones that I've purchased and I'm waiting for is the Fimi X8 SE 2020. I know Marcus has had some good experience with it. I also know Ron's had experience. He actually got to fly Marcus's and some other ones that I've talked to. And I know Jaybird has one. And, people have generally been very positive about it. And there was one video that came out on it recently out on my Facebook group. One of the gentlemen posted this video, and he said he had the settings. He didn't have everything cranked up as far as the settings were concerned. And the quality of the video was really impressive. And figuring, for what I ended up paying for this drone, it's going to be a great deal. I mean, we're hearing shipment dates, and I put out a video about that last night. But I think this is going to be much better than the Zino 2, David. I really do.
Yeah, I hope so. I will say that there's some things about, say, the controller that I really like, that in comparison to this is the Autel Evo 2 controller. And, this one, there's not removable sticks. This $500 one or whatever, $400 one has removable sticks. Simple things like there is a button here to switch between, I forget exactly what they call it, but it's basically DJI equivalent of tripod mode, normal mode, and sport mode. There's a button there that you can actually change between those modes super quick, right? And I use that all the time on my DJIs. There's no button anywhere or anything. Even in the software interface, you have to press like 3 buttons and get your camera view to go away on the Autel to be able to switch from standard mode to ludicrous mode. There's no place to be able to connect if you're using and store your cable on here. So you got to make sure that your cable is in your bag. This has, just like the DJI has, the cable here. So there's a bunch of little things that are actually pretty decent about this, that on a drone that's 3 times as much, they don't exist on this controller. So, and one of the simple little things that I like is that, whether you want the antenna up this way or you want them down this way, it's just super simple. You just rotate them, quarter turn, whichever way you want. This, you have to, I always forget which way. Okay, so if they're here in the storage position, to get them to go down, you can't just push it down. You've got to go 270 degrees around to get them down there.
Oh, wow.
Just and that's like, first world problems, right? I mean, but just little simple, like silly things like that why can't I just like push those down right there, right? And get them in position. I've got to rotate them around 270 degrees.
Now, which model of the Evo 2 do you have?
Right now I've got the 8K.
Okay. And what do you think? What do you think of it?
It's the drone I really, really want to love, but I don't quite love. So I have the original Evo as well, and I've always had horizon problems. Now, no drone is perfect. Even DJI, you'll get a little bit of drift there, right? But most of the time, it's not terribly noticeable unless you're really looking for it. The original Evo, I always had problems with horizon drifting, and I actually got it right here. But I actually had a problem with, I just figured it out today, that one of the little rubbery thingies here actually came disconnected. And so while I was flying around, like my camera was like crazy bad. And then, I don't know, it's still, and I know people are going to be like, oh, you're just a DJI fanboy. I'm really not. I'm one of those guys that's all about, I want a tool that's useful for me. I could care less about the brand. I just want a tool that is going to do what I want it to do and do it quickly. A lot of times when I'm doing, a paying job, I'm on a limited time frame, right? I want to go get it done and get back and edit that and get it out the doors. That's how, and get it done quickly. Or, a lot of times if I'm just doing stuff for myself, I'm doing things at twilight, because that's my favorite time to capture images because you get just different colors and the lights and stuff, but you're on a limited time frame in terms of, the light is changing every second. And so if you're dealing with a wonky gimbal, you've got the horizon tilt, it's just, you waste time. And little things like not having a button on the controller that I can just press to change between normal mode, tripod mode, sports mode. I do that all the time in every single flight that I do with my DJIs. And with the Mini, of course, there's not a switch on here, but on the Fly app, you can just top left corner, you can toggle through it. With the Autel, you have to click the gear up in the top right, and then you have to go down and you have to click ludicrous, and then another pop-up pops saying, giving you some disclaimer, telling you, that it's all your fault if you crash it, basically. And then you have to click OK on that. And then you got to exit out of that menu. So you got to tap like 4 times to change from just normal mode to whatever they call their tripod mode, or whatever they call their ludicrous mode, right? So it's just little things like that they just, makes it a little bit harder to love, right? I mean, it's a great drone. It flies really well. It's the best alternative to the Mavic 2, in my opinion, if you want, a high-end drone. But to be honest with you, right now, I would put my $900 or whatever into, or a little over $900 or whatever, for the Mavic Air 2 Fly More package, rather than spending, $1,400 or $1,500 or whatever it is for this, for the 8K version. Now, I don't have the Pro version. I don't have the Evo 2 Pro yet. Hopefully, maybe. I don't know.
Well, one of the things I can say, first of all, when I asked you that question, it sounded like, and he's a good friend of mine, Ken Dono, would have that kind of answer too. No, but I think you bring up some good points about Autel. And I can tell you the horizon tilt issue, David, it goes back to the X-Star Premium, okay? Their very first drone that they kept. And that was my very first drone too, okay? Yep. And I think, Autel has never had where their problem has always been for me is not with the hardware. I think the hardware has been done really well. I think it's always been the software for me. Yep. Even from the X-Star Premium. And when I sold the X-Star Premium, their last software update was a beta, and that's how they left it. And, when they went to make the Evo, they never finalized it. And it was just, how we'll wait weeks for an update from DJI? Oh, yeah. It was months for the X-Star Premium. I mean, it was literally months.
Yep.
So, it's like, that's my experience with Autel. Now, I think, and like you said, it gets frustrating when, I wish things would be standardized, so to speak, but you can't have everything the same, because Hubsan is going to be different from Fimi, is going to be different from Autel, is going to be different from DJI, and you understand that. But having all that you said that you have to go through to change a mode, that's a lot to have to do that, and you shouldn't have to go through all that. It's
Yeah, and obstacle avoidance ends at, so their normal mode maxes out at 22 miles an hour, and then you have to switch to ludicrous mode, and there's two different speeds for ludicrous mode. That the default one is 33 miles an hour, and the other one is like 40 or 44 miles an hour or something like that. I think it's 44 if I remember right. But as soon as you switch from the normal mode, then just like on the DJI products, if you switch to sports mode, there's no obstacle avoidance, but just to go above 22 miles an hour, you lose your obstacle avoidance. Where on most DJI products like the Mavic Air 2, that's more around, that's a little bit faster. I think that's closer to 30 miles an hour or something like that. The Mavic Air 2 is like around 30 miles an hour where you top out in normal mode, and then you flip to sports and you can go 40-ish miles an hour and you lose your obstacle avoidance.
Yeah, that's that I think is something to be said for that. One of the things that I'd like to spend our remaining time on and to talk about it, and it kind of hit us by surprise day after Christmas last year, remote ID. Okay. And everybody's like, the Christmas present from the FAA that nobody wanted. And, nobody wanted to see this. And, the ridiculousness of the way the FAA had put this together was just, it was beyond absurd. And then I said, okay, we're going to give you a period to comment on it. And, I know a lot of people put, ludicrous comments out there, just ridiculous ones. But there were a lot of thought-filled comments that were out there. I know
a lot of very, very thoughtful comments with a lot of detail, a lot of data.
Russ had a great one. I'll just use his for example, because he actually did a video on it. I spent a good afternoon getting all my thoughts together and typing it up and making it sound professional. And here we are. And I'm sure, I know Ron and Marcus put something on. I'm sure probably you did as well. And here, what does the FAA come up with? First of all, with the pandemic, I'm thinking they're not going to really be that concerned with this. Wrong. Okay. They're pushing forward with it, and they're pushing forward with it as is. David, it's ridiculous. I just don't see it.
Well, the problem is that all the money is driving everything, right? Us little people don't have a real voice, like a voice that's really going to be heard, right? I mean, the biggest voice we have is supposedly AMA, which I think I think their initial response to remote ID was terribly disappointing. I think they got a lot of feedback about that, and maybe changed their tactic a little bit. But there's really no big entity from our side that's pushing anything. To be honest with it, DJI has been one of the best vocal. Brendan Schulman has been one of the most vocal and best advocates, I think, for the little guy. And I know, a lot of people are gonna scream and yell, but hey, that drone to phone video was awful from DJI, to be honest with you. But I think what it ended up doing was kind of making a lot of people realize, hey, that is actually what the FAA is proposing. That's exactly what they're proposing, is exactly what's in that drone to phone. And I don't like how DJI presented in that video, but if you listen to Brendan Schulman, I follow him on Twitter and read all, every once in a while he'll put out a white paper, and he's very thoughtful, and I think he's one of our best advocates. But DJI, they just put out that I forget what the FAA called it, but it was a list of basically vendors that they're using to help kind of solidify the technical framework that they want to implement. And it was Amazon, and it was all big companies, right? That are companies that all have a financial stake in seeing it go in one direction, right? I think everybody on that panel was, there was AirMap on there, Verizon was in there. It was all people that have a financial stake to push it in that direction, and no group or anything from the opposite side to be kind of the hey, the dissenting voice, I guess, in terms of that, from my opinion.
Well, you bring up a good point with Brendan Schulman, and like you, I follow him on Twitter every day, and you're right. He's our best spokesperson regarding this, and I think the first thing, like you said, there was no real what I'll call drone business listed in there at all. Nothing was there. The first thing that hit me, and the second thing that hit me is there's still of this notion that this is going to be, it's going to generate profit for companies, say like Kitty Hawk or AirMap or, one of those type of companies. And, I'll give you an example. And I know the reason I say this is, Marcus flies a lot in Class G airspace. When he goes out to the Snake River, it's Class G. Okay. And he's literally miles away from a lot of places out there. And, you're supposed to have a cell phone signal. A lot of times when he gets out there's no cell phone signals. So how in the world is he going to fly if he doesn't have a cell phone signal in Class G airspace? Some of this stuff is just absurd, what the FAA is wanting to try to do with this. And this is something I mentioned in my comment when I put this out to them was I said, when, I've been in IT for 30 years. And one of the things that I know of, and I think you can probably appreciate this as well, is that, before they implement a system, okay, they'll architect it out and they'll do what they call a dry run, okay? They'll put it through some simulations to see if it's going to handle things like data flow and, the technical aspects of it before they even actually present it to like the VPs and execs to say, yeah, this is a project we want to go forward with. None of that's been done here. Okay. It's been like, okay.
A lot of it was not very thought through. And Lauren, I see your comment about all drone companies are Chinese based and therefore shouldn't have a voice in our regulations. That's a fair point. I hadn't really thought about that part, but that's definitely a fair point. So that's a good one. Now that actually brings me to the point that I was just thinking about as you're talking about that is that the U.S. government is kind of talking out both sides of its mouth in terms of China, right? So they're talking about about all data getting sent back to China, right? And now they want to legislate that every single flying device is internet connected, right? So, and is transmitting data back to some central location. Well, that. How's that really going to work out, right? So you're going to have a single repository that has all of the drone data in the entire U.S., and you don't think that's going to be a target for hackers? And it's going to be with third-party companies, and sure, they got good IT policies, but let's be honest with you, any company can really be penetrated if they really want to, and they're making this database that shows all the flights. Where everything's going. So to me, it doesn't make sense to be talking out of one side of your mouth saying, no, we can't have Chinese-based drones because they're going to transmit data. And then on the other side of their mouth, they're saying, oh, but here, every device now needs to be internet connected so that it can real-time send data over the internet. It just, if it truly was a problem in terms of, data being sent places, well, you would want to take away the internet connection. You wouldn't want to force an internet connection. That's how data gets sent back is through an internet connection. Mm-hmm. And, DJI supposedly went through a process with the DoD to make a specific version of the hardware and software that was DoD approved, that was locked down and couldn't connect to the internet at all. That was kind of that whole exercise, but I don't know that ended up actually going anywhere. But that was the whole point of that, was that they were locking down the system so they couldn't be internet connected, so that a user couldn't accidentally send data over the internet. And now they're gonna legislate the fact that you have to have an internet connection and it has to be broadcasting data.
Yeah, and one of the other things with this too is here we are again. it's $5 to register your drone, but we're going to have to pay somebody. Literally, think about this. We're going to have to pay somebody to fly our drone, right? To me,
Yep.
it's like, okay, I have to pay. I'm a Verizon customer, so I got to pay Verizon for my smartphone.
Yep.
I'm also an AT&T customer because my iPad is on AT&T, so I pay AT&T too. So it's like here, okay, now whoever is it going to be AirMap? Is it going to be Kitty Hawk? We're going to have to pay them to be able to go ahead and get our birds up in the air. Okay.
Well, I actually had several Twitter discussions, public Twitter discussions with the founders of, I forget which one's which, but with Kitty Hawk and AirMap. They're on Twitter, and I had several discussions through the remote ID process where they'd put out some crazy thing, trying to talk up how good remote ID was and stuff, and then I was kind of fighting back with them a little bit, having a bit of a discussion with them, and they were basically saying, no, we're not going to charge anybody. Just like with Lance, we have Lance services through Kitty Hawk and through AirMap, and we're not charging users for that, and we're not going to charge the regular user for remote ID services. But they do want to do value add stuff, right? So there's going to be like a free level for just regular folks, and then there's going to be tiers, right? Just like anything, right? A lot of times you get a free a little bit of features for free, and then there's add-ons, right? And so that's part of what they're talking about. But there's going to be cost somewhere to us, right? Whether that's advertisements, whether that's somehow there's going to be cost to us that's going to be coming back at us, because they can't just do it for free. For nothing.
Obviously there's going to be a revenue stream for this from them. And the other thing that I hear with all this too is like, okay, UPS and Amazon have stakes in this because they want to get their drone delivery business up and running and everything. And I have to stop right here and say this. Okay, now I've talked to some, I have some subscribers from Australia who have told me that the drone delivery service there was horrific. All right. That, it's that I think Google makes the plane. It's huge. And from everything from what I understand, it's basically autonomous. There's no FPV view.
Yep.
When it's being flown. Yep. It's pre-programmed and it moves on. And I know they've tried this up in Virginia as well. And a lot of people say, oh, it's like, oh, it's going to happen next year. It's going to happen next year, And I know, and one of the persons who's really kind of really harped on it, when I've had him on, has been Rick Smith. They're still years away from being able to do that, because I did see probably maybe last year, I found a video, and I don't know how old it was, of UPS doing a test with a truck and a drone coming out and actually doing a delivery, and it worked.
Yep.
The thing was, it had to be within so much of a range of that residence. So,
Yep.
you really kind of defeat the purpose anyway of having this, so this utopian idea of Jeff Bezos and all the bigwigs at UPS being able to, your packages are coming via drone, that's years away, I think.
Yeah, I think and I had said that before this whole remote ID came out. I mean, if you look at the waivers being granted and the authorizations that are coming out, it's still going to be a long time before it's a reality, especially here in the US. But that's exactly why the delivery companies want it, is because they want to be able to just push a button and have it go do it. They don't want to have a person watching it. They want to have it fully automated. They don't want to pay a person. They want to load something up in a package, and then it automatically goes down their conveyor line, automatically gets hooked up to some sort of a drone, and then off it goes. It goes and does its thing, and it comes back. That's where they're going to get their savings. They don't have a driver going and taking it, because that's a huge cost.
It is. It's a huge cost, and it'll be a huge savings for them. So, but you know what? It's like the technology is not there yet. It's just not. We're just not at this point. And one of the other things, being that you own an Autel Evo 2, is I know a lot of people that choose those because there's no geofencing on this. Okay. Well, when remote ID kicks in, it's a moot point as far as a selling point for Autel.
Yeah.
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 You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, because, that's one of the things I'll hear a lot of times, and I'll go out and look on different forums, and, I'll see Autel owners, versus DJI owners kind of a thing. And, and that's one of the big things that they'll say right away is, oh, there's no geofencing. I don't need geofencing.
Yep.
And I'm
Yep.
like,
yeah, for me, the geofencing hasn't been a problem. I think for some people, and I'm not saying for everybody, but there's a certain percentage of people that DJI's geofencing system is a knowledge-based issue that a lot of people just don't understand how it works, and they don't want to take the time, right, to learn how it works. And so they just want to press a button, take off, and go fly. They don't want to have to learn to figure out what the different areas are. They don't want to have to look up where it is, so there's some of that. There's also, of course, a certain yes, Skynet is real. There's a certain portion of people that just are ethically and morally or whatever against someone else controlling what they do with the property that they've spent their hard-earned money on, and I completely understand that. I also, being somebody who's been in IT and been in the business world, I understand the company side of that in terms of DJI. They're trying to protect their market, right? They're trying to make sure that one of their drones isn't on the front page of some website, or it's not splashed across the news that DJI just crashed a commercial airliner or something like that, right? So they're trying to protect their investment. If draconian legislation comes through, then that kills their market. So I mean that's the reason why they're doing it. There's a lot of people, on both sides of the fence, right? I was on a Twitter thread last night that Brendan Schulman was participating in with, I think his name's Chris Anderson. He was the CEO of 3DR, the 3D robotics, who, has kind of shifted focus. But back in the day, they were like one of the big names in the drone industry in terms of, making physical drones. Now I think they're more on the services side and software side. But he was, there was a recent article that came out about, I forget where it was in Florida, but was it the Bard Institute or some Embry-Riddle, I think it was, did some research, and they used DJI's Aeroscope around one of the airports down in Florida, and then they matched up Lance authorizations in that same area, and they determined that only like 7% of flights in the controlled airspace were actually authorized to fly. And so Chris Anderson from 3DR was tweeting at Brendan from DJI saying, hey, you guys need to do more to make it so your drones can't take off and they can't do these illegal things. And Brendan was saying, hey, it's just, there's a fine line between being able to say what people can do and what they can't do and that kind of stuff. And, if we go too far one way, then, they're not going to sell any drones. If we go too far the other way, then, it's a free for all. So he was saying it's a bit tough. And one of the things that I was saying is one of the problems with that particular study is that Lance is not the only way to get authorized to fly in a given area. You can apply for authorizations, especially if you have a waiver. Like I've got a 107.29 night waiver. You can't just do a Lance authorization to fly at night. You have to do a special drone zone. You have to get authorization through drone zone to combine your night waiver with that. And there's multiple different ways to be able to get authorization to fly in controlled airspace, and Lance is only one of those. And this particular article, or this particular research, the study that was done, didn't necessarily take into account that. And there's been a whole bunch of articles that have popped up around that research that are saying, oh, it's the Wild West of drones and they're going to cause problems and all this stuff, when it's not actually. I mean, it may be true, I don't know, but I think part of the problem is that when you have incomplete data, you can come to incomplete or incorrect conclusions. It's basically what I was telling Chris in that Twitter thread. And I don't know how much data is wrong or missing. I don't know how many authorizations go through Drone Zone as opposed to through Lance, but there is Definitely some. And there was a user, a person, I think his first name was Michael, who had posted in LinkedIn as well as a Facebook group that I'm in that talked about this. And he apparently lives in this area. And again, this is someone on the internet. I don't know them, so I don't know if they're telling the truth or not. But he seemed believable in what he was saying. That because one of the articles actually showed a heat map, showed the location and the altitudes of all the unauthorized flights, and he had actually looked through that data and found 12 of his flights in that were supposedly unauthorized, but of course he had gone through Drone Zone to get his authorization, and so there were only 19 flights in that study that had been authorized, and he another 12, just from him, that almost doubles the amount of, so it just shows that the data is not necessarily accurate. And who knows how many other people were, flying in that area and were also authorized by some other method that weren't accounted for in the way that they were analyzing the data. That makes sense.
That's something that, it's, and I'm glad you bring up the point here too. You brought up, you have a night waiver, and that's something that's different from Lance. And, that's something that you have to apply for with the FAA. And I think, people, because I'll get a lot of questions about that, and it's like, oh, can I do this to get a night waiver? And I said, no, you got to go through the FAA to do that. I didn't know exactly where, but, it's out on their myriad of pages to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But how long of an approval is it for a night waiver? I mean, is it like a week or two, or?
I think mine was, I think most people had said, be ready for like a 3-month wait. And I think mine was about a month.
Oh, okay.
When I got mine, but it's, I'm trying to remember when I got mine. It's been probably almost a year since I got mine, if I remember.
How long are they good for?
So I had just asked for a year and they gave me 3 years.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. That's real good.
Yeah.
Obviously, you state your business purpose and need and things like that when you're filling that out, right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Obviously, you state like your business purpose and need and what you'll be doing when you fill that out. I haven't seen the form.
There is no form. You basically have to try and describe how you're going to mitigate risks of flying at night. So you want to do things like demonstrate how. Well, first off, you have to have a visual observer all the time. You have to have like some sort of training material for them. So there was a link to some training material. So anybody who's going to be flying with me has to go through this material. You have to demonstrate that you're going to use the appropriate lighting because you have to have strobes. And there's a few things. You just have to basically explain how you're going to mitigate the risks of flying at night. Okay. One of the things that I said is that I'll observe the area that I'm going to fly in during daytime before I actually fly in that area, so that I can observe any sort of obstructions or anything like that.
Well, that's good. That's good information to know. We're kind of at the end of the hour here, and first of all, I want to thank you so much for stopping by tonight. It's been way too long. I had you on probably well over a year ago, and I needed to get you back on because it's always a pleasure talking with you. And one of the things I like about your channel, David, is you're very thorough, you're very detailed. You don't skip anything, when you do your videos. And that's what I really like about it. And if you've been on the dark side of the moon and haven't subscribed to David, please do so. There'll be a link in the description for you guys to do that. So, is there anything,
Bill?
No problem. Is there anything that you're currently working on that you'd like to let us know about?
Well, that's so it's been a while since I've posted a video. I think it's probably been about a month since that's my biggest problem, is I just don't get enough videos out. I think my subscriber base might be a little bit bigger if I put out videos more frequently, but I know you do a good job of getting videos out on a regular basis. I'm not so good at that. I get caught up with my kids or working or let's be honest, watching TV or something, and don't get videos out near as often as I should. But I've got the Mavic Air 2 that I need to get a review out. I need to get a video of the Autel Evo 2 out soon. So those are the two that I really am wanting to get out soon. And then the other one that everybody keeps asking about, and I don't know that I've seen anybody mention it here in the chat here, but almost everybody, anytime I show up anywhere or in my email or private messages or whatever, asks me about follow-up for this. So I've kind of put myself a deadline in my calendar that I've got to get a follow-up video for this, because I think I owe it to everybody to give an update on what happened with my Skydio.
I think that'd be a good thing. Well, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Family always comes first. Your boys are the age where they're doing things and they're active, and events and things like that. And spending time with family always comes first, and that's the same for me as well. It's like for me, Valerie and I, we're kind of sort of close to retiring. Now, I will say this, we were planning on coming up to Ohio in July. I don't know if that's going to be the case now or not. I'm probably going to spend some time up there. Our granddaughter's birthday is coming up. So, we would love to get up there. And I would, I make this promise, we get up there for more than 3 days. We're going to get together and do some.
Yeah, definitely let me know. And FSU grad 03, I was waiting for it from you, my man.
Marco.
He's one of the main ones always asking me, aren't you?
Marco's a great guy.
Good dude.
Really like him a lot.
But yeah, definitely. If you figure out a way to get up here, definitely let me know. And
it may be packing the truck up to do something like that, because I'm not real crazy about flying right now until they can get some of this air circulation stuff taken care of.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Things to be thinking about these days, aren't there?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Well, again, I want to thank you so much for spending the hour with us. I know it was a treat for me, and I know it was a treat for everybody in the chat tonight. I want to thank everybody that joined the chat tonight. I want to thank Jeff Voigt, and I want to thank Metro Drones for their super chats. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate that, and for your great and thoughtful comments throughout the thread. It's just great. I've been monitoring it tonight. You guys do a great job, and we. I really appreciate that. And, make sure before you guys, before we close out, make sure you hit that thumbs up for David. I'm the small part here. David's the big part here. We're here to see, I don't know about that. See me each week. Okay. You get to see David every now and then, and, make sure you hit that like button for him. He has a great channel, does a great job. Make sure you subscribe to him if you haven't done that already, and he's going to get some videos out there. Understand, he's a family person, family things come, and other things. So that's important, and that's on the list. Well, again, thanks so much, David. I hope everybody tunes in the next several weeks. I got some incredible guests coming up, and I actually have a VIP coming up in a couple of weeks. And I'm not naming names yet, because I don't get, until I get 100% confirmation from them, I don't want to let everybody know, and so-and-so didn't show up and everything. But I will let you know this. In 2 weeks, I have a VIP coming that I know David's gonna like who this is, and I know
you got me intrigued now.
A lot of you people are really gonna like who this is. So stay tuned. And again, thanks everybody for watching tonight. Make sure you hit up KlooGee and make sure you subscribe to his channel. Hope everybody has a great rest of your evening. Take care, and remember, it's a great day to fly.
See you guys. Thanks, Bill.